Sick. Hey, everybody. Welcome. My name is Dan Hughley. I'm the U.S. Marketing Manager for Focusrite. And I'm really happy to be joining four of my favorite people here at Focusrite. We work together on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And, we're all in the same boat here. We're all working to be creative while we're still staying at home. So I just want to have kind of a chat with these guys because we're all creatives, and I want to get some tips and tricks on how we can stay sane and stay creative and keep things going. So um, I'd like to welcome everybody that's watching at home, and of course I'll introduce everybody. I have Casey Stevens, Cody Standridge, Evan Weiss, and John DiNicola. So you don't have to remember those names quite yet. I'm just going to run around in a circle here and learn a little bit more about each one of them. So I'm going to start off with Casey, um, and each one of you, it's going to be the same questions. How long have you been with the company? What territory do you represent? And how did you first get involved with sound? So welcome, Casey.
Hello, everybody. Um, so I'm Casey Stevens. I am in Miami. I've been with Focusrite and Novation for, I believe it's 8 years now. So quite a long time. And how did I get involved with sound? It's a good question. Um, my dad played in bands when I was younger. My uncle was a touring bassist for Rod Stewart. So it gets us started at a really, really early age. Early DJing, early production, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And here I am.
Very cool. Very cool. Cody, how about you?
Hi guys, I'm Cody. I live on the West Coast in Long Beach. I handle the western region of the U.S. And then let's see, when did I first get started with sound? I guess like the first like instrument I ever played. A lot of people don't know this. I played trombone for like a year in middle school,
Very cool.
and then just didn't like everybody that was in the class, so I quit playing trombone. But moved on to like metal bands and things like that. But yeah, I did a short stint playing brass, which was fun. But yeah, I think that was the first like instrument I really started to learn.
That's very cool. It gets you like it teaches you rhythm and teaches you how to like musical theory and chord changes and things like that. That's a really good start. Awesome.
Right. And I've noticed I've started to see it different things where like they teach you the positions on trombone again. So I was like, I might get one of those again and try it out again.
Yeah, pick it back up. It's a cool creative tool. You're a producer yourself, so that's something you could instead of sampling samples, you can sample it
Right.
yourself and have something kind of unique. That's really cool. We'll go with Evan. Evan, how about you? How long have you been with Focusrite? Your territory, and how'd you get involved with sound?
Yeah, hey, what's going on, everyone? So I've been with Focusrite since December 2017, so just about 2.5 years.
Mhm.
Um, my territory is the central United States, so I'm based out of Chicago, and the territory is Minneapolis all the way down to Texas. So shout out to all my Texas peeps. Love going down there. Minneapolis as well. Oh, all of it. But I guess how I got started with sound. I was very young. My father was a great pianist, so I took piano lessons for a couple years, and then decided that I wanted to be a drummer. I was really into drums. That was just more my style, I guess, and did the whole high school band thing with two of my best friends. Then we went to college. We went our separate ways. I got into DJing, ended up having a pretty successful run of DJing in college. I still do a little bit of that today. Produce music as well. So it's been a part of my life, since I was a young kid, and now I'm here at Focusrite, and I couldn't be happier.
Awesome. And last but certainly not least, Mr. John.
Hey, thanks, Dan. So, hey guys, I'm John DiNicola. Been with the company, started around the same time as Evan, so about 2.5 years. And my territory is the Northeast. I'm based out of New York City, right here in Uptown Manhattan. So yeah, we that goes from about as far north as Maine all the way down to Virginia. So yeah, and as far as me getting involved with sound, I got involved probably well, I did play in the elementary school band like Cody. That was a good one. But aside from that, I started to learn guitar in middle school, and probably as soon as I figured out how to play a chord or two, I was for some reason interested in recording myself. I
Oh,
was always kind of a computer uh, I don't want to say geek, but that's probably the right term. So I was into that end of it, the tech side of it, and so I dove right into the recording. And by sophomore year of high school, I was having kids come over to record their demos and stuff. It's kind of how I bought a lot of my gear. So yeah.
Very cool. And I'm going to throw that one back to myself really quick. I've been with Focusrite 3.5 years. I cover all of the U.S. I'm the U.S. marketing manager for Focusrite. So the whole U.S. I first got involved with sound I for some reason in fourth grade when they asked who wanted to play band in fifth grade, I decided I wanted to play the sousaphone. And kind of just like Cody, that's where I learned theory and learned how to play an instrument, keep in time and things like that. And then, that kind of fell off after just 1 year of being in the band. But I always had that, desire to do things and not always like play an instrument, but be behind the scenes. So like fast forward a few years, I went to Musicians Institute. I know Cody did as well. Similarities don't stop there. We both went there. I went for keyboards to start out, but then realized that for some reason, performance anxiety got the best of me, and I'd forget how to play my own songs that I wrote, let alone all the songs that I'd learned how to play. So I made a quick decision to switch over to the audio engineering program and did really well there and worked for a really cool artist right out of school. And then now here I am with Focusrite, and I get to talk to all of you lovely people out there that get to come to talk to us at trade shows. You reach out to us, get to talk to you guys on social media, and just absolutely loving it here. It's a great team to be on, and we got a lot of great people out there as well. So I'm gonna kick this off with Casey. Do you play any instruments yourself, or are you a producer? I don't want to say just produce, because just produce is a horrible thing to say, because that's being a producer is a huge term. But talk about what kind of instruments you play, Casey.
Sure. So I'm what you would call a musicianist. I can't necessarily sit down and play piano, for example, but I've got a decent music theory. I can play a little bit piano. I can play the bass guitar a bit. Like I said, my uncle was touring bassist for Rod Stewart, so I've been kind of plucking around since I was a kid. But I also takes me a while to sit down and study things. I like to jump in and like kind of get my hands dirty very quickly, which is why my specialty is electronic music in general, because I can actually sit down, jump into a piece of software or hardware and start banging on it and basically figure it out. Live instruments aren't necessarily that way. Although, like I said, I have some basic music theory. I've got an AA in sound engineering, and part of that was music theory, sight singing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Very
so I apply that to my everyday, studio use. And, I still pick up the bass guitar and pluck around a little bit. And then MIDI controllers are, really synonymous with pianos as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I utilize music theory there on a semi-regular basis.
Very cool. How about Evan? Do you play any instruments, Evan?
Yeah. So I took piano when I was a kid. I don't really play much anymore. I know my way around the keys a little bit of music theory, but kind of like Casey was saying, if you put me in front of a bunch of people with a keyboard, you're not going to be very impressed. That being said, I still have some drum chops. I don't have my kit with me in Chicago, but I do have a virtual kit that I get to play on sometimes, and can definitely keep up. Not great at the drums. Used to be pretty good, but I can hang. I'm more of exactly what Casey said. I'm a musicianist. I produce my own music, and that involves programming drums, programming melodies, chord progressions, things like that. So I can actually sit down and write it out. It may take me a little while, but I can write stuff. Now, when it comes to performing, definitely more of a DJ than a live PA kind of guy. Been DJing for almost 10 years now. And there was a point in time in my life where I was gigging 3 nights a week. So
Amazing.
Am I pretty good? Yeah, I think so. I involved in a lot of different things, but DJing is definitely, I think, probably my top talent, I guess, if I had to say.
Nice. Cody, I'm going to pass it to you next. I know you said you played trombone when you got started out. Well, any other instruments that you've picked up since, or are you just...
Yeah, because I didn't really keep with trombone too long, really. I switched to like the bass guitar for a while,
Yeah.
and that kind of led into keys. So kind of similar to Casey and Evan, in the sense that we're DJs. So like I think those are kind of a lot of the fundamentals of when you're learning to DJ and stuff. A lot of the things that are important. So yeah, like I can still fart around on the bass guitar, and DJing is definitely more of my thing. I like different creative styles of DJing. So whether it's with live or with turntables or whatever it is. So I think that that's gotten to be so many different things now that that's almost it's kind of how many different ways you can do that. It's almost different instruments in itself now.
Nice. And I feel bad, John. I asked you last both times, so I'm going to kick you off. You're going to be last for this question, and you're going to be first for the next one. So
All right.
we all know that you play a bit of guitar. Anything else?
Yeah, no, definitely not. I mean, like the other guys, I will fumble around the keyboard a little bit, but no, guitar is the only instrument I can actually sit in front of people and play. I did the whole. I was in a band in high school, played a lot of gigs with the band, done a lot of solo gigs, acoustic gigs. So that's kind of my main background as far as instruments go. But definitely love getting my hands on the controllers and and messing around with stuff like that in the DAW too. It's great for songwriting and all that. So would love to learn piano or keyboard. Maybe depending on how long all this goes, we'll see. Maybe it'll happen.
It's really funny. People like yourself that say they play a little bit, generally, when they sit down with someone like myself that doesn't play at all, people like you sound like Eric Clapton. You're like amazing guitar players. It's the people that are super humble about it. And then, I've heard you play, and it's pretty amazing. But in your, I'm gonna pass this one around too. When you get started with producing a new track, John, how do you typically start? Do you start with drums, a melody, a guitar riff, some kind of sample, some kind of vocals? How do you start a track out when you're being creative?
I'd say certainly historically and most often it's probably with the guitar, whether it be a progression or a lick. Kind of like what Casey said, just because for me that's the fastest way to express myself. If I hear
Yep.
it in my head, I can probably play it on my guitar at least close enough, and so it
Yeah.
gets me going.
Cool.
So that's probably the primary thing. On the other hand, when I try to dabble into other kinds of music, we were doing a circuit jam. When I'm doing stuff like that, I tend to go the other way and
Yeah.
start with a drum beat. So
Oh,
yeah, it kind of depends, but primarily the guitar.
nice. Cody, how do you start out your tracks?
So if I'm doing like electronic music, it's probably gonna be drums first, just because that's a lot of what that is anyway. But if I'm doing hip hop, it's always the melody or the sample or
Oh,
whatever the inspiration is for the track there. So it's kind of just flip flop depending on what I'm working on. Basically, it kind of a lot of times it's just whatever like I hear that like gets me in the mood and stuff. So
yeah, very cool. Evan, how about you?
Yeah, in a similar fashion to what the other guys said, it really kind of depends on the genre I'm focusing on. I've been making a lot of house music recently, so that involves a lot of drums and really nailing the groove. So I've been starting with drums first usually, and then building on top of that. But if I'm doing sample based music, then obviously you want to start with the sample or melody. Um, but there's no rule set I give myself, but I would have to say the vast majority of the time I am starting with drums.
Okay. Casey, last on this question. What about you?
Yeah, for me, it's always been drums.
Yeah,
Always. Um, that always starts first. Yeah, as you can see behind me, I've got a pretty decent selection of records
yeah,
that side too.
it's very
So
cool.
initially when I first started, it was always digging for samples, chopping stuff off. I know, humble brag, but
No,
chopping some records up, finding some samples, etc. Now, so that's just kind of my workflow in general. Inspiration strikes differently though. So
hmm,
sometimes you might hear something
yeah,
in a record or humming something in your head, etc. So you might sit down and start, plucking it out on a controller or finding some samples or grabbing that sample, and then you go to the drums. So inspiration and actually what you start with kind of depends. So normally I start with drums, but sometimes inspiration strikes when you hear something, you just go and grab that, and that leads you down a path. Drums come relatively early though in the process.
generally, what inspires you to start something new, Casey?
That can be anything. You know, hearing a song that I'm playing on my Spotify list, and just kind of riffing off of it, or thinking, oh, this part in that song is open. no copyright infringement, of course. Um, and so you grab that sample and you kind of flip it. You kind of figure out how you might make your own interpretation of what that artist was trying to do. And then you take it in a different direction, and you go start going down this path, and before you know it, you've got this really cool thing that doesn't resemble anything that the original sample started out with. So that's always a fun rabbit hole to find yourself in, and just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper.
Is that what keeps you creative as well? Just new music all the time? I know you and I have talked about this offline a few times as well, but what does keep you creative these days?
Is that for me?
Yeah, back still with you.
Um, man, it's again, it can strike from anywhere. I have a wide variety of likes. So new music might inspire me. Old music can inspire me.
Yeah.
Sometimes you listen to an old track and you hear something that you never really heard before that stands out for some weird reason. So that might be an inspiration. Sometimes you're just bored and you get in the studio and start fiddling around and stumble
Yeah.
across something that's cool.
Yeah.
So inspiration can strike from a whole wide variety of stuff for me personally.
Yeah, I mean, even GarageBand is free with every Mac. You can grab some of those samples, throw something in there, and get a bit of inspiration. I've done that in the past, and you can throw together a pretty fun track in a matter of minutes, if not seconds. It's
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. I'm gonna pass those two questions back over to John. What inspires you to start something new, and what's keeping you create? What keeps you creative?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have to agree with Casey. I mean, of course, it can be anything as far as what inspires you, something new. I agree with everything he said. It can be a song you hear, new, old, all that really resonated with me. As far as what keeps me creative, and Casey touched on this too, but I think like trying new things, whether it be digging out some loops, which might be something I don't normally do, or diving into new virtual instruments or even a new DAW or whatever it may be. Coming on board, I got to learn a lot of new products with the Novation side. That was really cool for me. It inspired me to start playing my guitar more, even though it was kind of a different thing. So trying something new is always good. Um, that's one thing. And then I think for me personally, it's also setting aside time to do it, making sure that, obviously a little bit easier right now, but even now, people are filling up their schedules. And I think it's important to just kind of set aside that time to be creative. And not, even if you don't say what it's going to be, whether it's picking up the guitar, trying something new, setting aside a set of time for that, kind of like you
I'd
do
even
for
dive into that further and say not only setting aside the time, but allowing yourself to take breaks to do that kind of thing.
totally.
Especially right now in the time that we're in. We're all in unprecedented times right here. We've never dealt with this before. With the vast majority of us are at home. And myself included, I need escapes to get rid of this anxiety that I've stopped watching the news and made the mistake of watching it yesterday, but learning my lesson on that as we go. Cody, how about you? Same questions. What inspires you to start something new, and what's keeping you creative right now?
Yeah, I mean, like commercials, movies, anything pop culture, I really like.
Yeah.
That's weird and funny. I just did a track recently with like a Neutrogena commercial sample where I just chopped out because I heard it
Don't say where you got it from.
They're not gonna find me. No, it was just
Now
like I
they will.
heard the bit so many times, and it's less than 30 seconds. I heard it so many times, like I heard the commercial like probably like 30 times or something. I'm like, fine, that's gonna be a song now. So like, it just like if it annoys me enough, I'll make a track out of it, basically.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Evan, are you going to be making us a "I Saw a Tiger" beat? Did that inspire you, or is it a different route that you go for inspiration?
Possibly. And I did hear Cody's Neutrogena beat, and it's actually pretty dope.
It's not Neutrogena. Let's make up a different name. We don't need them
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
after any of us.
That thing's in
Cody's
popping.
opinions are his own. Do not necessarily represent Focusrite Novation Inc.
Very true. Right. So I guess there's a couple different things. When it comes to starting a song, it can come from a variety of different places. One of the cool things about this job, not recently, but in the past, we travel a lot, which means going into a lot of different cities that we're not from and not familiar with. So I always get inspiration from going to places that I don't I'm not familiar with, and doing some city exploring.
Cool.
Obviously, we're not doing that right now,
Yeah.
so that inspiration needs to come from somewhere else. And like Cody was saying, I do find a lot of inspiration from movies in particular. I
Hmm.
am a kind of a movie nerd, so one thing I have done in the past that I think I'm gonna give a shot here again pretty soon is putting a movie on in the background, like
Yeah.
on a TV where I could see it, and then turning the sound off, and then trying to score it while
Oh.
I'm at my music desk. And I've had some cool results coming from that. And I want to give that a shot with the Lighthouse. If you've seen the Lighthouse, I think get some pretty cool sounds out of that. Yeah.
That's a really cool way of doing it, and that's pretty inspiring actually. To, that's quite a task to give yourself, is to score a film. But yeah, that's a really cool way to get things started. That's something I've
It,
never thought of personally.
not
Staying
necessarily scoring it, but just kind of like getting the vibe from
sure.
the movie.
No, yeah, just like with the awesome circuit jam you guys did the other day, you know, all five of you that were on that had different interpretations of the same sound pack. So I'm sure if you did the same thing and had you all sit down and watch the Lighthouse, every one of you would have a different interpretation of it, and it would probably be really cool. Um, Sticking with Evan, since you might have touched on this a little, what's your go-to product or process to change your mindset when the anxiety of watching the news kicks in? I know I just mentioned that happens to me, um, and I'm just interested to hear, Evan, what do you do in that situation?
Well, I think it's good to get away from the computer screen,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
even before all this stuff was happening, we were already on our computers probably all day. Now even more so because we're working from home. So I found that going for a walk is nice. Yesterday I actually went for a bike ride. I haven't gone on a bike ride in a decade, and that felt great just to do something different. So obviously adhere towards the social distancing guidelines. But if you do have a chance to go outside and get some fresh air, that seems to be just to you know come back with a clear mind.
Yeah.
That seems to be helping me.
Yeah, that helped me this morning. I had to take my dog out this morning, and it was just so nice to feel sunshine and to feel the warmth of the sun hitting me. Because just like when we're at work, where I'm in the office here at home all day, but I don't get the luxury of driving to work and walking around a little bit and then driving home and all of that. I feel like I took all of that for granted now that my commute is 30 feet from my bedroom to my office. So I'm
Totally.
trying to get outside just as much as possible. So how about I'm going to kick that one back over to Casey as well. What's your go-to product to help ease your anxiety?
I find myself like DJing a lot,
Yeah,
which I very rarely do at home, or I haven't done for a very long time, even though I have a set. Mostly I would pick out a couple of records and decide what I wanted to play and go and do it. But like to just actually go back and like just enjoy DJing and like come up with different combinations of how songs go together.
yeah,
Sometimes that I might be playing something and go, oh, I wish this song did this. So then I go and I try to make a song that does this. Or, I also been finding myself going back and reading a lot of stuff on my iPad that I haven't read in a while. So
mm,
I'm a jujitsu guy, so like strategy's a big thing for me. So like I'm about halfway through the Art of War again.
very
So
cool.
um that's a big getaway too. Like going back and starting to read again, which I haven't done in a long time.
Yeah,
It's helping a lot.
nice.
I've Another thing that's helped too is like I've pretty much limited how much news I watch daily.
Yeah,
So I'm only watching anywhere between 1 to 2 hours a day, and then shut it off and do something else for sure.
yeah,
And you get your general gist of like what the daily overview looks like. And then once you're done with that, okay, cool. I know what's going on. You put it away and you go do something else.
yeah. That's super important. I can't stress that enough. I had gone probably a week and a half without watching the news at all, and then yesterday I just turned it on for some background noise, and then yeah, it got me good. Ignorance is bliss for me, honestly, in this current situation. I'm gonna go back to John now with the same question. What's helping you change your mindset? Any creative tips?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of going back to the same thing for me. The guitar is a really good one just because you don't need a screen to do it.
Yeah,
I agree with Evan. We've been on this computers a lot. Um, we always are. But now, a lot of times musically we're on them. We're on them for work all the time.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but I've done a lot of these video conferences with friends, and that's been a lot of fun. But
Mm-hmm.
now that we've been doing it for a few weeks, you realize that it could be a lot as well. So the guitar is nice. It kind of helps you escape. I second Evan on the exercise any way you can. I've
Yeah.
been getting out for runs whenever I can and dodging in the streets and trying to stay away from people. But but that's been really good for me. But yeah, musically, I would have to say, jumping in with the guitar.
Yeah.
I haven't played any gigs in a really long time, but I did a live stream just for some friends on Facebook, and it was like I felt like I was playing a gig. I
Yeah.
thought I was going to do it for 5 minutes, and I ended up doing it for over an hour,
Yeah.
and so that was just a cool way to take my mind off of it and stay in the vibe.
Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, I caught a little bit of that, and it was really fun to watch. You were just playing like you were playing to an audience, which you were, it was really cool.
And not that I'm, everyone is doing it, obviously, but it was still fun. It was,
Yeah.
and so it was awesome.
You know, that's one of my things is I have a podcast, and what I do is I don't care if anyone listens to it, to be honest, because I just want to be creative with it, and that's really my thing, is just be creative with it. And it's ridiculous nonsense in the podcast itself, but it's fun for me, it's creative for me, and that's kind of what I've been doing. I don't know if luckily I launched right before all of this hit, but luckily I launched, so it gave me a lot to do behind the scenes to kind of keep my mind at ease. But sorry, I skipped over Cody there on that question. He looks like he's itching for an answer on it. And I'm going to give you the next question too. So go to product or process to change your mind when the anxiety hits.
I play a lot of video games, so
Yeah.
I'll usually go drifting on Gran Turismo.
Yep.
Just put some tires for a while. That's a good way to stress relief.
Nice.
Also, my fiance's an artist, so we'll paint and just like put on some jazz or some samba or something,
Mhm.
and just kind of chill and like just kind of decompress for a little while. It's always a good way to decompress. So, even finger painting. Finger painting's fun.
Oh,
Like,
dude.
you know,
Yeah.
something get basic with it. Coloring's always a good one too.
Yeah, you brought up video games, which I am definitely the farthest thing from a video game person, but I have an NES Classic. That's my console of choice. That's it, NES Classic, the one that's preloaded with all those games. I've been playing Mario. I was rocking Tecmo Bowl the other day, and what is that? Is that all 8-bit? Because it's the graphics are so bad, the music is so bad, but
That's the best part, though.
it brings me back to my childhood. Like I'm old. I had an NES when I was in elementary school. Before even I never even had a Super Nintendo. But yeah, it was just really fun to kind of escape a little while and just I put on a record and played Nintendo. It was great. It was like being a elementary school kid again. All right,
John and I get down on NFL Blitz.
Oh yeah, you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. I was playing some Tecmo Bowl. That was a pretty good time. And that game is so old. It has the LA Raiders as a team. So that was what 22 years ago, 23 years ago, something like that, or more.
Right.
I don't know. Dating myself here, big time. But just a light thing to wrap this all up, because we just have a couple minutes left. This is kind of a two-part question again, and I'm gonna stick with Cody on this. Who's your favorite artist to listen to, and what artist inspires your creativity the most? Definitely doesn't have to be one and the same.
Okay. So I'll do the second part first. Definitely
Sure.
Pete Rock is like most inspirational for me. He's just the master, and yeah, I mean, you just study his music and you'll learn a lot. As far as favorite to listen to, that's like a really tough question because I listen to a lot of different things.
Your desert island
But-
artist.
Desert Island artist. Oh man, that's tough.
It's
man.
tough, right?
Yeah, it really is because it's like what do you really pick?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's tough. I guess I don't know. I feel like you'd have to go with Grizz just because I would get a lot of the different flavors of the other artists that I would want to have
Yeah.
on that on Island as well. But still, I can listen to something in particular that would be like good. So
I'm gonna go to John with that same question. Favorite artist to listen to, and who inspires your creativity the most?
Yeah, I always have a really hard time with this question as well.
I do too.
Favorite to listen to, I mean, it depends what metric I want to measure that by. I've always been a huge Dave Matthews Band fan, which is kind of a boring answer, but I mean, I just love I love his songwriting. He writes. He's a great guitar player. He also writes really great lyrics. And then when you bring in all the amazing musicians that he plays with, they cover a lot of bases. So I'd have to go with them
Yeah.
for now. And then the inspiring one is even harder for me. Cody, I give you credit for nailing that so fast. I don't know because I feel like you can gain inspiration from anywhere. You know, I'm clearly a guitar guy, but you know, I also get inspiration from. I had on a '90s hip hop playlist last on Sunday for hours and was loving it. You know,
Yeah.
so I can be inspired from that too. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to dance around that one. I can't really pinpoint it.
You know, you brought up Dave Matthews, and I had the honor of, well, I was a studio intern right out of school. I got to work with Boyd Tinsley, his strings player, and that was just so fun in the studio to work with him. And yeah, that was really inspiring to me to work with that great of an artist. And, you know, I have very few great artists that I work with, and I have worked with, and he was definitely one of them. I'm gonna
Yeah,
kick this.
that must be incredible.
It really was. It was an interesting time in the studio. He worked from 4 to 4, but it was 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. And then, you know, he'd come late and he'd still want to do his 12 hours, even though we had already been there. And it was a really fun session. It was a full week, 7 full days of that, and it was pretty cool. Evan, I'm gonna come to you and then wrap up with Casey on that one.
Sure. Probably most inspiring artist for me is definitely Prince.
I knew that answer. I knew that one with you.
Yeah. It's kind of obnoxious sometimes.
Nah.
How obsessed I am with Prince, but he's just the best, man. Like he's a multi instrumentalist. He spans several different genres. You know, funk, R&B, soul. He's got some heavy songs too.
Yeah.
Phenomenal guitar player. I mean, he plays everything. So desert island artist Prince, most inspiring artist Prince for sure. Just because he's got such a wide variety of music to pull from. But you know, favorite artist to listen to, it really depends on what kind of mood I'm in.
Yep.
I'm a metalhead as well. So
Yeah.
if I'm in a metal mood, I want to listen to Tool. Listening to a lot of Code Orange recently. I don't know. I don't want to be that guy that says I listen to a little bit of everything, but it's true.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick one, Prince.
Yeah. And wrapping up that question with Casey, and then I have one more question, and we'll be out of here.
Well, I'll be that guy and say listen to everything because I really do. But if I had to narrow it down, I'd say inspires my creativity. Probably Trent Reznor.
Nice.
I mean, he's just clutch. I mean, every song just sounds so drastically different, and how he comes up with his soundscapes is crazy.
Yeah.
What do I listen to? My favorite artist to listen to. That's a really, really tough one. Man, I'm gonna have to say, I guess for like its breadth of work that most people don't really realize is probably DJ Premier.
Yeah.
I mean, when you go from like the stuff he's done with Christina Aguilera to his own group Gangstar, I mean, there's a whole lot in there. Sample flipping is a huge thing for me too, and he just freaks them. Ninth Wonders are close second, but that's you only get one, so I'd have to go with Primo first, I think.
You know, you brought up Trent Reznor, and bless him for bringing out 2 albums that are written for this thing right now. Ghosts are, it was 5 and 6, right? 5 was great. 6 was definitely, you can feel the tension in that one. And it kind of goes back to, it made me feel like I was watching a movie, like kind of what Evan was saying. Like it felt like he sat down with a very tense movie and wrote that second album. And, I love him for putting those out for us for free last week and making it free to all the fans. And yeah, I'm a huge Trent Reznor fan as well. So the last thing I'm going to ask of all of you, and then we're gonna wrap this up. And I'll just go right around. I'm going to come right to you, Casey, first. Is there anything you want to plug? Where can we find you? If someone wants to check out your music, you can feel free to pass. Don't mean to put pressure on anybody, but if anyone wants to find anything else about you, where can we look?
Yeah, you guys can find stuff. I didn't really talk about it too much, but I still DJ professionally, still produce professionally, have my own label. If you're into up tempo 808 Miami bass style tinge with electronic music mixed together. You can find my stuff at SoundCloud, the only Merlin, Merlyn. My Facebook, DJ Merlin. I think same way, Merlyn. And my IG, I think it's the only Merlin. I don't quite remember. So it's Merlin with a Y, Merlyn.
Awesome. Cody?
Yeah, so check out the Third Eye Hip Hop on Spotify. That's THATHIRDI on Spotify. Tons of great hip hop music there. If you're into hip hop, if you're into electronic music, check me out. Dankity Swanks, DANKITTY Swanks. Released with this group called Fuzzy Puddles. Definitely worth giving them a listen.
Nice. Evan?
Sure, yeah. You can find some of my house music at Ubervice is what I go by. So Ubervice. Instagram, Twitter, SoundCloud, all that. Got a lot of stuff in the chamber. So going to be uploading a lot of music here over the coming months.
And finally, John, where can we hear more from you?
I've been pretty behind the scenes the last few years. I don't really have any projects going on there right now, but I'm hoping to change that. But so stay tuned. In the meantime, I'm sure you'll see me back here soon enough.
Nice. Very cool, guys. Well, of course, anybody can follow Focusrite on Instagram at We Are Focusrite. Myself, if I'm not really doing a whole lot other than my podcast, but I post on Instagram as well at Dan Hughley. So I just want to remind everybody that's watching that Thursday at 1 p.m., these four plus Ricky will be doing another really awesome circuit jam. I had a great time watching this. It was funny. I was trying to work while I was doing it, and then I was just like, no, this is just too entertaining and too cool to be able to work at the same time. So I want to thank everybody for your time today. Hopefully we can do this again in the future, and stay well, everybody. And we're going to all get through this, I promise. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dan. Good talking to you.
You too. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.